Welcome to Life, Death, and the Law, presented by the law firm of Deason, Garner, and Hansen, hosted by attorneys Shawn Garner and Adam Hansen.
My major concern is why do we have the most remedial issues being fought? For example, voter ID. It's not racist to have an ID. It's a ridiculous notion to say that it is. To have an ID would be the basic minimum to demonstrate that the vote is being held fairly. Why do we not want to count the ballots that are coming out of the machine? That seems to be the very minimum requirement to demonstrate that the vote is being done fairly. Why is the question that's most focused on during the presidential debate is whether Donald Trump is going to accept the results regardless. And when he answers, as long as it's fair, then everybody goes crazy and acts as if he's some type of radical that wants to overthrow the peaceful transfer of power. It's not radical to say, I want a fair contest. I want to demonstrate that the systems, because we know that there's a lot of complexities going on with the voting, and regardless of your faith in the system in general, you've got to acknowledge that there are complexities there with all these moving parts, every state having its different laws regarding the voting. And he says, as long as it's fair, as long as we can demonstrate it is fair, and I don't understand why that is an answer to be challenged. For example, if I'm given a multiple choice question or test, and the examiner says, now before I give you this test, I want you to swear that you are going to accept the grade that I give you. Why would you even ask that question? If they ask that question like that, I would say, well, I mean, can we go over the answers afterwards? Can we verify that the answers that I put down are accurate, that the Scantron, if we're using something like that, was working properly, that my number 2 pencil was properly being picked up on the machine? Because those types of issues have occurred a lot of times on standardized tests, and so I want some type of validation that the test that I'm giving was graded accurately. So if you're going to ask me 100%, am I going to accept the results of the test? My answer is going to be, as long as everything was shown to be done appropriately, then yes. But the fact that you asked that question kind of makes me a little bit defensive.
Who doesn't have an ID in our society? If you're participating in our society, you have a government issued ID. Is there someone that doesn't? I don't understand that argument. When we see, like, Arizona tried this, we tried to implement a voter ID law, and those always tend to be struck down for constitutionality. And I don't understand that argument. It's like, well, you're making you're disenfranchising these individuals that don't have an ID. Who doesn't have an ID?
Yeah, and
like what person does not have an ID? You have to have an ID to participate in life as an American citizen. I have to have an ID. I went to the bank last week. I mean, rarely do we go to the bank anymore, but I went to the bank for our office for a business reason, and I had to show my ID. What else did I have to? Just recently, I just did something.
You get on a plane, you go to an airport.
Yeah, I did that. I had to show my ID. I had to.
You buy spray paint.
It was something where they're
if you buy spray paint, you have to have an ID.
Yeah, so it was something that kind of caught me off guard. They're like, oh, can I see your ID? And he had to match my name to something. And I'm like, no, that's whatever, You
do a return at Walmart.
Yeah.
Got to have an ID.
ID. But not to vote. You can do anything. You don't have to prove who you are to vote, even though that's one of our most sacred held duties and responsibilities in a free society. I don't have to prove who I am.
And that's why that saying that Jaslyn said is so profound, that if the votes actually counted, they wouldn't allow us to vote, because honestly there are so many variables, and they want to keep it that there's too many unknown variables for us to actually pinpoint where the vote got off, that they can call the election with whatever, I don't know. I got to think of the word.
It's like technicality,
Yes, they can implement any type of technicality or shenanigans that they have in their back pocket, and they have time to implement those, but they got to know when and how, because they don't want to use the ace up the sleeve unless they have to.
Right.
But if they have to, they will. And, in 2020, Georgia went dark for 3 hours, right? And after midnight, it was dark for about 3 hours. And then at 3 a.m., a gazillion votes came in, and overwhelmingly they were for Biden. And that alone should stink enough for us to say, we got to sniff this out and figure out what the issue is. And somebody's doing something wrong.
I have the solution to all this, and I've told you this before, but it's a two-step process. Number one, we make November 5th a national holiday. So voting day is a national holiday that we all have off. It's a federal recognized holiday. No mail, no work. We all get to go to the polls. And then that's the second part of it. We all have to go to the polls. You have to physically go down and vote.
Absolutely.
On paper. And then that gets scanned.
And of course, the argument is going to be it's discriminatory against people that have handicaps or people that are too poor to drive down to the voting station, but have no problem making it to Circle K or wherever else.
Exactly. To get their cigs.
Yeah. So,
Martine.
So,
not that you're one of those, Martine.
I love it. With India, they show people that are proud when they got the right to vote and they were recognized and had the privilege to go and vote. They would hold up their finger and it was dyed. And I didn't know this, but Thomas pointed it out. I thought that they would dip their finger to put a fingerprint on their ballot. He said no, they dip their finger in ink, so it's obvious that they voted and they can't go and vote again. And so it identifies that they've already participated.
Yeah.
And in Iraq, we saw that as well. Dip my finger in some ink. I want to show people that I voted. I want to hold up my finger high that I voted, that I'm one of those privileged people that can actually afford an ID to go through all of the rigorous requirements to acquire an ID, and I jumped through that gauntlet to exercise my right to vote for a president.
Coming up, more thought-provoking conversations on life, death, and the law right after this.